Come and join me as we dive into the world of careers, uncovering the reality behind the job titles you've always wondered about and how you can chart your path to success. Whether you're starting out or dreaming of a new role, I'm here to guide you. Real talk, real jobs, real insight, providing career clarity, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Work Uncovered. Hi, I'm Terry Homans, career consultant and founder of Curated Careers. In today's episode, I'm chatting with Dave Jones about his career journey, which started in policing and went through to HR, consulting, and now property. Dave is an experienced business strategist passionate about tech sector organisational growth, with a rich consulting background across engineering, mining, resources, and energy. Dave has specialised in performance optimisation, talent leadership, and business transformation. Dave's talent for understanding client environments has enabled the creation of huge business value over the past 20 years. His leadership has built high-performing teams committed to client success and sustainable expansion. Dave has recently transitioned into his fourth career as a buyer's agent, having launched Hotspot Buyers earlier this year. He now helps property investors and first home buyers, upgraders, and property flippers find their next dream home. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Wow, that's a big, impressive bio. So I have so many questions around that. So let's just dive straight in. You're
Fantastic.
in your fourth career now, I've just mentioned. Can you tell me what the main role is that you're actually doing now?
So at the moment, I'm doing a role that's a quality role. So quality, excellence and strategy manager for a technology company. It's a 4-day-a-week part-time contract role. Essentially, it looks at how to grow the organization from a strategic perspective, but then how to execute that growth. In the past, it's been how do I execute that growth through people, and now it's about how do I execute that growth through quality and excellence.
If we go back to the very beginning then, say your high school days, what types of roles did you imagine yourself doing way back then?
Wow, that's a long time ago. I originally looked at being a policeman when I was 16. That's what I thought that I wanted to do, and I actually applied for the police, but they didn't let me in. And I think the reason why was I was still a boy, and they didn't imagine what I might have looked like as a policeman. I was a bit of a late bloomer. But that's okay. I went away and had a bit more of a think, and I thought, well, I want to be a teacher. So I applied for an education degree and got accepted into the University of Southern Queensland up into Toowoomba, and I did that degree for a year.
All right. So then that's what you did straight after school. Now, can you give us, before we dive into everything that you've done in your career, could you give me a quick rundown then of early career roles that you might have had then around that time? So you said you've started in education, but obviously that's not where you've ended up. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Look, I realised after doing a prac in the education degree that I was doing that I actually don't like kids. No offense to anyone who has any. Well, I didn't at the time. I was 17, so yeah, I just didn't have the patience for kids. So after 12 months, I realised, and I failed a couple of subjects. I was focused on other things as a 17, 18-year-old is. So I failed a couple of subjects. I couldn't get into the major that I wanted to, which is a PE teaching major. And at that stage, I applied again for the police because 12 months had gone by, and I'd grown and learned and changed a bit. So, and this time I was actually accepted into the police. So I started in the police academy back in 1991.
So looking at that then, what initially drew you to the police force? Was there some moment when you realised, this is the work that I want to do?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things. One is I found myself wanting to help people. I wanted to do something valuable and worthwhile in society. And, those are big thoughts for a 17 or 18-year-old. But um, when people asked me the question, I kept coming back to that. And another thing was I was bullied at high school, and it wasn't terrible like what some people have, but I was bullied, and I don't like bullies. There's a famous movie where The Rock says that line. But and so becoming a policeman was kind of part of that. You know, I'd want to help stop inequity or poor behaviour in society, but also help people at the same time. So that's why, for me, policing was a good choice as a young man.
Great. I love that. Um, is there a moment then from your policing career that has perhaps shaped the person that you have become?
Look,
Probably many, but is there something that really
many.
stands out for you?
It's being a policeman is a crazy, exciting, interesting day to day. You never know what you're going to do. Driving down the street, you can look left or right, see something, and that will take your life on a different path. So there's no one thing from my time as a policeman that drew me down any particular path. I was studying a Bachelor of Arts in Justice Administration, which is what you did back then to be a policeman. And I was doing that part-time in my mid-20s. And I had to make a decision in that degree. The decision was, what major do you want to do? A major in, there were only two choices, major in policing, three, major in policing,
Mm.
corrections, or human resources. And
Ah,
I was very cautious about my decision. I thought, well, how long do I see myself in this policing game? And at the time, uh, I thought I should give myself some options. I
mhm.
think I was about 4 or 5 years into my service, and I thought I should give myself some options. So um, obviously, policing and corrections keeps you in a uniform, whereas the HR option gives you the world's your oyster, essentially, in terms of jobs.
Fantastic. Now, many people stay in policing for life or at least quite a long time. So, what made you then decide to take your HR career out of policing and into the corporate world? And was that intentional, or did an opportunity just arise and you thought, I'm going to jump?
Was intentional. I worked on the road for about 6 years. So many policing roles, general duties, CIB, um, involved in so many different interesting jobs and a couple of murders that I helped solve. Very interesting, exciting work. But I was getting older. I had a relationship that turned into a marriage and kids, and so I made that decision to move into a HR role within the police,
Mhm.
and that took me off the road and into a 9 to 5 job. It was a promotion, which was more money and more stability, I guess, which matched those kind of late 20s in my life.
Yep,
And
that makes
as
sense.
yeah, and as I did that, made that transition, I was also thinking about moving out of the police, and
Mhm.
I took the opportunity with my wife at the time to go and live in London for 12 months. And at that stage, I'd finished my HR degree. In fact, I think I finished my master's in HR at the age of 28.
You did
And
do that quite early on when I stalked your details.
yeah, so we jetted off over and we lived in London for 12 months. And I took on HR roles in London just trying to think of some of the companies. KPMG was one of them. Some big BBC, big organisations, and that's when I really got a proper taste of what operational HR looks like. Because my role within HR within police was more policy, kind of a high level role, as opposed to boots on the ground, talk to people about their performance type HR.
So was moving into that corporate HR much different? And had you picked up any skills through policing itself and then HR police or policing in HR rather, sorry, that were especially helpful, maybe more than people might realize?
Yeah, look, the ability to talk to anyone at any time about anything is what policing gives you, because you've got to be bold and you've got to take control of situations. So certainly that experience helped my transition into HR. It's immeasurable how that had helped me.
Yep, fantastic. Now, if people are listening to this and they're thinking about HR, that's a very broad field of work. So, can you explain the areas perhaps that you've specialised in? And then can you actually explain briefly what they are if people, because we all hear about things. And that's the whole point of this podcast is we hear job titles and we have an idea about what they are, but sometimes we're very inaccurate. So, can you just give us a little bit of a description about those different types of HR?
Yeah. But my roles within Queensland Police were policy and workforce planning. So that's about writing policy. At the time, the workforce was about 10,000. I think they're at least 15,000 in size now. So there's a whole lot of policy writing around how people work, where they work, what they do, how they do it. That needs to be done. Workforce planning is about controlling how much recruitment occurs, who you're recruiting, what criteria you recruit them with, and then where they're posted to work, and how you measure that performance on a day-to-day basis, and how that matches up with the organizational goals. So that was the police roles, workforce planning and policy. And when I moved into generalist HR, there's it's such a broad ranging topic, but in generalist HR, if you stop and think about a person's journey through an organization, recruitment and selection is the first part. So there's a whole bunch of interviewing and talking to people, trying to understand their skills and capabilities, even though you yourself don't even know about the job that you're interviewing for. You don't know the technical stuff. But you try and understand who that person is by doing something like what you're doing here with me right now. You understanding how openly they speak. You want good eye contact. You want connection. You want, when you ask a question, you want them to have the ability to step outside of their circumstances and, think more openly. So there's a lot of recruitment and selection that goes on, and that's interesting stuff. And that's supported by psychometric testing, reference checking, all that kind of thing, which is a lot of conversations with people on the phone, and a lot of, computer work in terms of the psychometrics. So that's that part of it. The next part of a normal individual journey through an organization might be onboarding. So making sure that they've got the skills and the knowledge about the organization to be able to apply what they bring to the organization quickly, efficiently, and effectively. So onboarding is really important. And there's a bunch of training material and things like that I've prepared in the past to support that type of thing. And then I guess we step into a normal day-to-day career for someone within the organization. The type of things that you work with someone there are career development. What's their career going to be within this organization, learning and development. How can you help them to get more skills and to elevate themselves as well as increase their productivity and their performance within the business. So I've done work in that space. And all of this together, along with performance management, managing underperformance and managing for peak performance, coaching, mentoring, all of that kind of thing. That is all part of talent management. And I guess I've hung my hat on that term for many years. In fact, later in my career, I created a company called Talent Managers, which positioned myself as an expert in the space of talent management. So just carrying on a little further from that, there's performance management, remuneration and benefits, which is understanding and matching someone's performance with the amount of remuneration. And of course, that needs to be matched with the external market, but also matched with what the company can afford to pay. And then I've covered performance management, but there's often a negative performance management connotation, which is dealing with underperformers or people who just have poor behaviour in the
I imagine
business.
that can be quite tricky.
Yeah, look, it's never really been a concern for me. And I guess with my policing background, I've never had a problem just calling someone on poor behavior. I don't get emotional about it. I'm not connected to their negativity.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy just to call it as it is and kindly, but professionally let someone know how things stand. So that's never been a problem for me. And then, of course, there's the termination stuff. And when you do terminate someone, whether it's a voluntary resignation, well, that's usually pretty straightforward. You try and keep them if they're valuable. If they're not valuable, you let them go. But there's a whole other part of HR that not many people know about, which is um, defending the organisation against claims of unfair dismissal or other legal matters.
I hadn't thought about that. I'm glad and obviously that I actually
Yeah.
know somebody who's going through that, so I don't know why that didn't occur to me. So yes, please enlighten us about how that.
Yeah. So if you follow your HR manual and your policies for managing performance and a discipline and termination, normally you don't get yourself into any trouble and people understand that they've done wrong and they leave. But it's really common for people to, if you're not kind about what you do, and if you don't give them the opportunity to respond or the opportunity to improve, then there's no natural justice or procedural fairness about that. And then they have the right to go and seek unfair dismissal, assuming they earn under 150K. There's some criteria around it. But the bottom line is that if you don't do a good job of performance management, of discipline and of termination based on solid policy,
Mhm.
then you're going to make a mistake in your career. And I've done it a few times. And you're going to have to defend yourself in front of the commission or some other judiciary at some stage,
Yeah.
which is difficult
Wow.
to do.
I bet. I bet. Okay. That's quite a lot. And I'm glad you've been able to explain that to people because, as you said, there's so many areas within HR, and you could literally just be spend your career in one little pocket of that, or you could be a generalist and have to do all of those things. So now, just over, I think it's about 15 years ago now, you started your own consultancy and you moved fully into that. So, what led to that decision?
That's a great question. And what I'd love to be able to say was, I was just incredibly ambitious and entrepreneurial. The fact is, I was performance managed out of a consulting role in a big consultancy.
Irony.
And yeah, and I was left without a job. And I had to make a decision. And I didn't know that the global GFC was happening in 2008, in
Yep.
September 2008, when I was just finishing up in my
We
role.
only all had crystal balls back then, right?
So I didn't know what was where we were headed, but I guess in some ways I'd just finished an MBA, and this is I characterize a characteristic of my career.
Mhm.
You'll find that before I make a move, I educate myself first. And for your listeners and the people who
Smart move.
follow, I think educating yourself prior to a move is really smart. And what happened when I was terminated from that company, it was just a mismatch. They wanted something, and I had an expectation of something else, and I wasn't prepared to sit there and do remuneration and benefits day in, day out. And I wanted to do interesting, exciting kind of HR. So it was perfect. They terminated me. I'd just finished my MBA, and the capstone subject for my MBA was how to develop your own consultancy. Yeah,
Serendipity.
yeah, a little bit, or maybe I just didn't do a good job for a few months and deliberately so as they'd sack me. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but bottom line, uh, I uh, I left that role. I started up my consultancy the very next day, and I've never looked back.
What was the hardest part then about so the decision was made for you, so it's not like you had to agonize over, "Oh, I think I might do this." Decision made, so we can jump over that part. What was the hardest part, though, about you've come from a very structured environment within a corporation to, oh my gosh, I've got to do this all on my own now? Now, at least you have come, your area is HR. So that's kind of really leads into, there's so much stuff there you already need to know about how to be successful in a business, or how a business should operate, or the types of things you definitely should be doing. But if you've never actually run a business before, I guess, how do you tackle those kinds of things?
Yeah, look, this is a really important question because this was before the age of social media. The word podcast didn't exist. So, in order to get work as a consultant in HR, you had to actually ring people up and say who you were and what you do and try and get a
Wow.
meeting with them. So, business development and generating connections and leads. I don't even think we had LinkedIn back in 2008, or if it was just, it
Oh,
was
I think
very,
it's just then. No, I'm pretty sure I had a LinkedIn profile back then, but it was, here's my name. That's about it.
so So it wasn't the kind of platform it is today. You couldn't,
No.
post a bunch of stuff, and yeah, I think that came later. So that was the most difficult part, was finding clients and doing work. And the way I got around that, which I suspect was your next question, is I actually took on contract roles, short
Okay.
term contracts, and in that way, I was able to. I ended up working up in the mines in Murumba, and
Huh.
helping some smaller companies to right size.
Hmm.
Um, that's code for get rid of people they didn't want.
That's a very
So
diplomatic term.
yeah, so helping companies to right size and then recruit better, so as their culture and their capability increased over time. I really enjoyed that time. It wasn't consulting, so to speak,
Yep.
for about 18 months until then I started to uh, prepared a spreadsheet with all of the engineering firms, because that's where my experience had been
Hmm.
in the fire, all of the engineering firms in Brisbane, and I picked up the phone. I rang every single one of them,
Wow.
and then I had a spreadsheet with 300 names of people that I'd spoken to and what my connection points were. So that was a really challenging period. So anyone who wants to start their own consultancy or offer a service needs to think very carefully nowadays about uh, how you're going to get a funnel of clients that are going to put money in your pocket.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember just when I mean, I was thinking about starting my own company for quite a while, and I couldn't believe how many people just said to me, just get an ABN and wing it, you'll be right. And I remember thinking, you've got to be kidding. I need to go along and get some kind of business qualification first. There's no way I'm making that leap and just go, oh, she'll be right. I'll figure it out. No way, no way on earth would I do that. Oh, goodness. Okay, so you're you've built this consultancy, and that's what you've been doing in all the years I've known you, which I think is about 10 now. And I know within that you sort of do, I know it's changed as well, but it's kind of, oh, I did a few days for this company, a few days for this company, and that's how you've done it. But you've mentioned in earlier chats that you've transitioned a little bit and you're doing something a little bit different now, or have been this year. Can you tell us about that then?
So probably for about 15 years, I've been um, a HR consultant, and sometimes that's with one company a few days a week, and other times it's with other companies, or going for a project, or write a people and culture manual, or etc. It can be quite varied, and for 15 years that's been fantastic. But I've really been more interested in business strategy, especially since I've got my MBA. The strategy stuff has always excited me, and because you've got a couple of sevens, I think it's hard to get a seven, but I managed to get a seven in business strategy and entrepreneurship. So because I was passionate about it, because it interested me. Yeah, so I've been doing business strategy for a few years now, essentially running strategy workshops. And then once the strategy is written and developed, then helping companies execute that strategy for business growth. So that's the last few years, and even just this year, I've changed again, still doing strategy, but instead of helping them execute strategy through people, I've been helping them execute strategy through quality and compliance. So, for example, you might have heard of ISO 27001. It's an information security standard. So I helped the current company that I'm with last year obtain that standard. So it's a lot of policy writing, which came from the early days of my career, and a lot of how people do things. It's a very technical standard, and the good news is in this organisation that I've implemented it, I've got a lot of good technical people around me. So I've needed those communication and negotiation skills that again came from early in the career to help me to do that work. So at the moment, I'm writing a quality and excellence manual for a company, and that's something I've never done before. So Chat GPT is my best friend. Now, also, I use a bunch of other tools to help me to generate quality content that's consistent with ISO standards. So it's kind of a bit compliancy. There's a little bit of the old policeman comes in there. This is the way
He'll
things
never go away.
so that's the work I've been doing this year, and
Okay.
I mean I still love it because there's a strategy component. I'm still helping people, the owners of the company, and I'm still part of something bigger than myself, which I really enjoy.
I was going to ask you what do you enjoy about that, but I think you've just told me the answer to that. So, but you did talk about ChatGPT, which is a very important conversation that I will have with anybody in any career in this day. You can't avoid it. So, how is AI changing things? I know you've not really been in that HR space for a while, but so then in terms of what you do now, how is AI changing in that space? And what does that mean for people who might be looking to work in the types of areas that you've worked in?
Mm. So let's say I was back in Queensland Police Policy and Workforce Planning, where I started back there in 1996 or 7 or something like that. That department would have been about 30 people. With the advent of AI, I think they probably only need about 3 or 4 people to do the same amount of work. So it's massively carving out the amount of work that you need to do to achieve outstanding outcomes. The large language models that fit behind ChatGPT, for example, and also Microsoft Copilot, they are so sophisticated. So long as you ask the right questions and give the right prompts, you can achieve your outcome. And then all you have to do is read over it. For example, yesterday, I wrote 3 references on behalf of clients about the company that I was working with. I had like 2 or 3 dot points, or I had a case study to refer to, and I had an email where someone said some good words about the company. I took all of that information, I plugged it into chat, and it gave me these beautiful references that could have been written by an absolute professional in seconds. So to answer your question, chat or AI is going to take anyone who thought that they were a wordsmith and that they could hang their hat on that for the rest of their lives are going to be sadly disappointed because chat's taken that all out.
I must admit, I was very anti myself because being in the business I'm in, people say, why would I get a career coach to help me with a resume? I just get AI to do it. Now, I have lots of reasons why you should not get AI to write your resume. That's for another discussion. But I use it a lot for seeking out research, because researching takes a long time, and especially if then you can use things like Perplexity or whatever, or even ChatGPT. But you're saying you can plug something in and I can get a really quick summary in seconds, which can save hours and hours and hours of reading. And I just think, oh my goodness, especially having done psychology at university, I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of hours of just reading you had to do every week. And I imagine students now will literally be going, just give me the cliff notes, please. Because often that times is just repeated over and over and over, and you think, oh my gosh, I've just read 500 pages and it could have been done in 100. So I'm all for it. And I do use it a lot. I don't use it to write resumes, but it is great for research and just for really summarizing or brainstorming ideas. And so I can see that it will, in many places, not going to take people's jobs, but absolutely streamline and just remove those really mundane types of things to free us up to do better things. I'm hoping.
It certainly is. Here's a good example. If you say to anyone, or if you said to anyone 12 months ago, business strategy can never be replaced by AI, I would have agreed with you. Absolutely. It cannot, because there's so many considerations. But recently, I've recorded sessions like this, strategy sessions, with a dozen people around the room, all putting their ideas in. I write the stuff up on a wall. It's all very interesting. And we came to an idea of all those thoughts together. What are the top 5 issues? What should our objectives be for the coming 12 months? And then I took the transcript of all of that information, which I'd written up on the walls, and I plugged the transcript into ChatGPT with a prompt that said, on the basis of the information discussed, what should the top 5 objectives be for the next 12 months? It came up with exactly the same answer as we verbally came up with. So ChatGPT or AI, we're still correct. It cannot come up with strategy, but it can certainly be a great fact checker. That the strategy you just came up with is consistent with the discussion that just occurred.
Wow. It's definitely, like, who knows what's going to happen there. It's mind bending. It is life changing. It is all of those things. And I think if you and like I said, I really was pushing back so hard for quite a while. And I think you just have to embrace it now. If you don't, you are going to be left behind. So you might not lose your job to AI, but you most definitely will lose your job to someone who can use AI. And
That's exactly
the
right.
key here.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave that behind, because what I want to hear about now is you have started a new business this year. Can you tell us about that?
Fantastic. Look, for years I've been buying and selling properties, renovating, flipping. I absolutely love property. And, as I move into the kind of later stage of my career, uh, I, I've kind of done HR. I've done strategy. I've helped people grow businesses. And I thought, well, maybe I should just grow my own. Maybe I should do my own thing. And so I asked myself, what do I enjoy? I actually enjoy getting my hands dirty. I enjoy looking at property with the prospect of buying it, and I enjoy the ideation of what a property could or should look like if it was its best form. And I enjoy making money, don't we all? So we know that between now and 2032, the Brisbane property market's going to boom because of the Olympics. There's zero chance it's going to go backwards. It's only upside. So as a result, I decided that I wanted to do something with property. I don't imagine myself as a real estate agent, even though I've had to do a real estate license, which you need to do to be a buyer's agent. But if you stop and think about my career one more time.
So that's what you are. You're a buyer's agent. That's what you're doing now?
I'm a buyer's agent. So sorry to kind of creep up on it, but what I wanted to do is draw that line between being a teacher, being a policeman, being a HR guy, being a consultant. It's all about helping people. So being a buyer's agent is about helping people to buy their next property, whether that be an investment or, your next dream home, a place to live. So that's why I created Hotspot Buyers. It's a dream of mine to do this, and I'm really enjoying it.
I love this for you because I think in the 10 years that I've known you, I don't think you've ever not been renovating something, or I've just bought this, so I'm just going to flip that, or I'm just, so I can see 100% why you would be interested in this. Now, this might sound like an obvious question, but can you actually explain to people exactly what a buyer's agent does?
Yeah, a buyer's agent is like not only a person's eyes and ears, if they don't have time, but it's like having a best friend who knows everything about something. So, so you go to your best friend and you say, which is the top 5 suburbs that I should buy in for capital growth? Well, your buyer's agent will know that. So then you can narrow your search down. Oh, what are the interest rates and when's a good time to buy? Or do you know a mortgage broker? Or how do I get off market properties? These are the things that buyers agents can help with. And it's the relationships that I have with real estate agents who have the properties, help people to get those properties before they even hit the market. So a buyer's agent will take the criteria from a buyer and they'll support the buyer to introduce them to mortgage brokers or engineers who will do some structural testing or pest inspectors, and then they will actually bid at auction and they'll help negotiate price. And then if you're really savvy as a buyer's agent, you'll help actually knock the price down after you've made the offer and it's been accepted by doing some sneaky things like what I do, which I'll tell you another time.
I was going to say, we'll chat about this later. I'm pretty sure when you first told me, this is what I think I'm going to do, I straight away went, yeah, you can help me. I need to sell my house. I want to buy another one. All right. How does in your HR background give you an edge in this industry, do you think?
Look, when you're a HR person, you've got to connect with everyone. Your communication and interpersonals needs to be on point. And as a buyer's agent, it's the same story. You need to be able to connect. You need to be able to engage and understand someone's, where they want to be, what they want to do, and then you've got to coach, mentor, support them to deliver that. So it's the same skill set.
Quite the journey you have had. All right, I'm just going to flip back a little bit and just look for some general insight, especially if there are any sort of early career starters here or people who are even maybe at school, or if there's a parent of, a child listening. I always want to ask this question of people. Again, I know your kids are a bit older, but my son is just finishing grade 9, so this is peak area for us. If you were advising someone around that age, late sort of high school years, who has absolutely no idea what they want to do, what would you suggest, or what would you tell them or advise them to do at this point if they're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start?
Yeah, I would talk to many people who are already in business. So kids in their late teens often don't like to talk to their own parents, or I think their parents don't know anything. This is not true, of course, as you and I know. But talking to your parents about what their job is and how they do it, I think is important, because it'll tell you, it'll give you a point of view on for a person in a particular role. But your parents' friends as well. Talk to them. In fact, anyone that you know, you should be very curious and ask a lot of questions about what they do, so as you can understand. And the question should be, what excites you about something, but also what's a terrible part of that.
What don't you like?
That's
Yeah.
right. So a lot of listening, a lot of questioning, and a lot of curiosity, I think, is important for people who are just starting out.
I love that answer, because clearly that's one of the things I tell people if they're exploring any career is just ask questions. Every single person you meet has a job. Do you know what I mean? We're often quite tunnel visioned about our exposure to careers. And I literally walk down the street and say to my son, that is a job, that is a job, that is a job. And we don't. And we see how many people in a day, and they all have a different job. But in our minds, we go, oh, jobs, what is there? Oh, doctor, lawyer, teacher, engineer. And then people kind of fade out and can't think of anything else. So yes, ask questions. That's the perfect answer for me every time. What do you wish you understood about careers when you were younger?
When I was younger, I really thought that you start a career and that's what you do forever. And that, as you get older, you might climb the ladder in that career. But it couldn't be further from the truth. And I think a lot of people change careers many times throughout their life, as I have. And what excites you at one phase of your life is not going to excite you at another phase. I doubt whether any of my old police mates will be watching this, but if they did, sorry, fellas. The, the excitement of being a policeman when you're younger is awesome when you're younger, but as the weight of shift work, lack of sleep, stress, major incidents, and trauma piles down on you, like, I take my hat off to those people who have stayed in the job, because it's an incredibly
Yeah,
difficult.
absolutely. I imagine that would be something that would be very hard to sustain. All right. What skills or habits do you think set people up for long-term career success, regardless of industry?
Yeah, I think education first. Learn how to learn. In your first 2 years of uni, you're not going to know how to learn unless you're an amazing student, and you learned it back as a teen, which is very unlikely because it's a different type of education than uni. So I think the most important thing is learn how to learn, lead with education, focus on things like your communication and interpersonal skills, because a CV well written will get you an interview. So if someone gets a CV through Curated Careers, it's going to get them an interview. It's a beautiful thing, but then they have to pass the interview, and to pass the interview, you need to be able to connect with people. You need to be able to present with confidence, smile, look someone in the eye, think carefully about your answers before you give them, and present the best version of yourself. So I think those are important skills.
Can you tell me about a time when you, early in your career, when you maybe have underestimated yourself or underestimated your ability, and then did that change anything for you going forward?
When I first decided that I wanted to be a policeman, I was actually aiming very high. And I don't know what it was, my background, my parents, whatever it was, gave me the confidence to aim high. But then when I actually achieved that and I became a policeman, I was shocked. I didn't actually realize. So I don't know if this answers your question, but I underestimated the fact that I would achieve what I thought I would. And so the question that I often ask myself, if, for example, when I want to start a buyer's agency, the question I ask myself is, why can't you do that? And usually there's no answer. Usually it's just crickets. So I ask myself, why can't you be a buyer's agent? Well, there's no reason why I can't. Well, why can't you have your own buyer's agency? Oh, well, all I have to do is get an ACN and ABN. And yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say ask yourself why you can't rather than why you can. And normally you'll hear crickets.
I like that answer. And sometimes I find very often this has happened with me as well. You set out to do something really unsure if you're capable of doing it, and you do it. And I use this as part of sort of strengths based work with people when they're really feeling like, oh, there's no way I can do that. And I always reflect back and say, well, when have you had a difficult challenge before, and what did you do then? And you've achieved it. Well, do more of that. You know, it's just about, so a lot of it is belief. You discover you can do something and do exactly what you did, which is go, well, if I did that, why can't I do this? And so then obviously it has changed you because then you've had that belief in yourself, that self-efficacy to go, yes, I don't know anything about that yet, but I can do it. Like, what's stopping me? So I
Yeah,
love that because I think for many of us, fear is the only thing really standing in our way. It's not our skills or abilities. It's just the fear that prevents us from taking that leap and going, yes, I'm going to try that next thing. I love that. All right. Um, you've had quite a few career changes, and I know you're not actually watching people go through career change themselves, although maybe a little bit in your work. Where do you think people might go wrong when trying to change careers later in life?
from recent experience, I've seen some people burn out. And I think the reason why they burn out is because they have made a poor decision to get into something that's inconsistent with their natural flow. Now, this is a kind of new and developing thought pattern of mine. But let's look at me, for example. My natural flow is educate yourself on something, make sure it's connecting with people, which gives me energy, and make sure I'm helping people to achieve something, growing a business or buying a house or whatever's the case. So I'm in flow. That works for me. So I have seen some people lately burn out because the choice that they've made is they haven't thought about or asked enough questions about perhaps what that particular job means. And it's not consistent with your natural flow, then that's a risk.
I do like that. And now that you've mentioned it, I see that with clients who they want to make a change into something, but then looking at that role, maybe they're later in life, 40s, early 50s, and they think, I need to do this because either I need to get more superannuation or whatever it is, or jobs changing and I need job security. So they pick something that is a great role for the future. And exactly what you've just mentioned happens because it actually does not really fit them at all. They've gone for it based on the security that might provide. It doesn't match their interests. It doesn't match their values. And exactly what you've just said happens. And then they come back going, oh, I tried this and it's terrible. I hate it. What do I do now? So that's a really interesting answer and very true. So a little bit of a question here. I know you're educate yourself very well before you make a leap into something new. But how do you know when it's time to trust your gut and actually then finally pull the trigger?
If you're feeling stuck, I think that's a really and sometimes you feel stuck. For example, we're in December right now. It's the 12th of December. A lot of people are feeling stuck because it's late in the year. And so uh, that that is an indicator that things aren't right, but it might not be correct. So you've got to test again whether you feel stuck again in January when you get back to work. So if you've got no energy or if you're feeling stuck, that's a good reason why. If you're unhappy, and sometimes your home life might make you unhappy generally, but quite often, if you're unhappy in one aspect of your life, that kind of filters around to other aspects of your life. So if you're
Absolutely.
unhappy in many aspects of your life, it could be that your job's not right for you anymore and it's time to make a move. If you've been in it for a long time, so 8 to 10 years, I think you probably know enough about that. And you've created some value in that space. So I would suggest again, time to move on. They say that people make 4, 6, 8, sometimes career changes in their life.
Average is 7. Yep.
7. Yeah. So
Average.
if you've been in a career for 8 or 10 years, and the average turnover for a career is 7, then maybe it's time to have a look around, especially if you're
Yep.
not happy.
And especially in this day of, like you talked about before, when we thought maybe giving away our ages, or maybe even our parents' age was definitely you did a job and you did it for life. Our generation and definitely every generation behind us, like people are just chopping and changing every few years now, just because the world of work is changing. And it's not because people are unsatisfied. Sometimes it's just, well, that job doesn't even exist anymore. It's time to move on and find something new. All right. So, I think you've answered this next question that I had for you. You did. So what I'm going to do is maybe flick to, again, that career decision changing kind of aspect. Do you follow intuition, logic, opportunity, just gut feeling? Is there anything that helps you decide?
And
Do you
what
have a
to do
list of
next?
pros and cons? Or
Yeah, look, I think it's got to be all of those things. Because if your gut feel is against your intuition or your education or what your friends or family say, then don't do it. So I think you've got to test your next move against all of those things. What were they again? Intuition,
Is
gut
it
feeling.
logic? Is it just opportunity? Because I know some people do. They just see an opportunity and bang, they're off without really considering it. Other people will be very measured and methodical and literally have a spreadsheet of, is it time to go weigh up all of the pros and cons, and what's the likely result going to be if I do that? What's the result going to be if I do that? So, I mean, we are all different. So it was probably a how long is a piece of string kind of question, but I was just
Look,
interested in you.
it's a good question. I can answer it by just referring back to this decision to move into and to start a buyer's agency. Now, would I have started a buyer's agency if I didn't have all that property experience? No. So that's background. Would I have started it if we didn't win the 2032 Olympics? Maybe not, or maybe yes. But have a think about it. That promise of actual high returns by investing my time in property in the lead up to the Olympics was a really important factor. But my gut feel, my background, it all has pushed me in this direction. And there's nothing that says don't be a buyer's agent, you idiot, except for the fact that my business as it is does well now anyway. I could continue to churn away writing policy documents for the next 10 years, but God, that's boring as hell for me now anyway. Yeah.
Is there a risk that you took that changed your life, even if it didn't actually go well?
Yeah, well, that decision back in 2008 to start my very first consultancy, that really did change my life.
It did go well, though.
It's gone incredibly well, and I think I had some good people around me who encouraged me and suggested that it'd be a good idea. So we haven't really covered that in this discussion, but having people around you who will encourage you and support you in your career change is incredibly important. Having someone on your team to guide you along that path, to ask you those questions, about, your gut feel and to really connect with you. I think it's really important to have some type of coach or mentor to help you to make those
You read
decisions.
my mind, because the next series of questions I wanted to ask was about this entrepreneurial side. So what was it that surprised you most about starting your own business? Anything that really just maybe not shocked you, but something that was just very unexpected?
When things are good, when things are good, they're good. So, I remember, there was one particular, and I'd make phone calls, I'd go to meetings, I'd put contracts together in front of people and they'd be signed. 10K, 20K. I think I signed my biggest deal. It was about a $40,000 deal one day. And I'm like, wow, this is like a massive chunk of my revenue for the year. And I just
Yeah.
got it signed at one time with one client. I was ecstatic. So you can get some really big positives. And then you can have a week or two when no one calls you and you're doing nothing. So having your own business is full of highs and lows, and you've got to ride those waves. And those highs and lows usually relate to when you've got work, you're on the high because you're earning. But then once you've earned, if you haven't done the BD in the background, then you're going to, and so you got
I
to
must
ride.
admit, through my whole career, people have always said to me, "Why don't you have your own business? You have great work ethic. You work so hard. Why not just reap the rewards and letting somebody else, cash in?" And for me, it was always about that. Oh, I'm so risk averse, and in those down moments, I just don't know how I would cope with that. And again, so that's fear, right? Fear just creeping in, stopping us from probably achieving many, many things. So I know you already mentioned before, because I was going to say what were your biggest challenges, but I know you touched on before about, we didn't have social media or things like LinkedIn, so it was just that challenge of getting in front of people would have been big. But then how do you stay motivated when you're starting something from scratch in the harder times? Like, how do you just not give up? Like, how do you keep going?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question. Part of it is just grinding. So part of it is just, I want to be successful. So I need to just put my head down, do the research, make the phone calls, move forward. So I think that's important. Obviously, get good sleep, good nutrition, do whatever it is, however you move your body. If you don't move your body, you're in trouble,
For sure.
because that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So all of
Uh,
those good, healthy things, ask ChatGPT. that will help you to know how to keep balanced and motivated. But
yep.
it is exercise, nutrition, sleep, something that interests you and you're passionate about. And then the other part is education and just grinding through the hard times.
What do you want people to take away from your career story so far?
Lead with education, because if you don't have the experience, no one's going to talk with you seriously about a role that you're interested in, unless you've gone and proactively done the education to get yourself in that position. So lead with education is incredibly important. Aim high, ask why not. Why can't I? Consistently do that. Stay motivated, stay fit and well. I think those are the key themes that I'd like to pass on to your listeners.
I like your aim high. I remember a long time ago, and I actually had secured a role and we were negotiating salary, and I'm on the phone, Dave. And you went in and you're like, don't settle for that. Go and ask for this. And I was just shaking in my boots. No. And you're like, just aim high. And I did under your advice, and they gave me exactly what I asked for. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Well, look,
All right.
aiming high has got to be, it's got to be the absolute key to getting ahead in your career, because if you aim low, you'll achieve it. But if you aim high, you're 90% that you're going to
Yeah.
make it.
No, you're
And
so
what
true.
happens if you don't hit the stars? At least you've jumped over the moon. Do you know what I mean? Like you're already heading in
Absolutely.
the right direction.
Yeah. All right. I've got a quick fire round of questions for you, because I know we're getting up to about the hour mark now. So here we go. No long answers here. What's the best career advice you've ever received?
Education first.
What's the worst advice you've ignored?
Oh goodness, that's a very hard question. The worst advice that I've ignored. No, don't have an answer.
Okay, well, that's good, because I imagine a lot of people have, have just gone, oh, I've been given so much bad advice over my career. Thank goodness I ignored it.
No.
I know the answer to this one. One human capability that everybody should develop.
Communication, interpersonal skills.
Yeah, that's what I figured you'd say. One mistake you're now grateful for. It's probably a tricky one.
Mistake that I'm grateful for. This is a bit egotistical, or could be seen as, but I haven't really made a bunch of mistakes. Uh, if they are mistakes, or if they were, they've worked out fine.
Yeah.
So no, I don't have an answer.
Or maybe you've done something, and like most mistakes, if you learn from it, it just becomes a valuable experience. So therefore you don't really see it as a mistake. You just saw it as a learning experience. That's kind of how I try and get myself around that one. Is there a book or a podcast or some kind of habit that has really changed you?
Someone gave me a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I read that when I was 19 or 20, changed my life. Highly recommend.
Fantastic. Now, this is a question that I ask any person that sits themselves in front of me for a career consultation who is unsure about what to do. And that is, we call it the $1 million question, or the magic career question. If qualifications, salary, where you got to live, all of those types of things were completely irrelevant, what would be your absolute dream role?
Right now,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be a buyer's agent in Queensland as we head toward the 2032 Olympics. Now,
Oh, goodness.
I'm incredibly fortunate to be in a position to choose what I want to do and um, to choose something that I think will see the rest of my working days out. And maybe I'll own that business while other people work in it while I'm in retirement.
Fantastic. Last question, Dave. This is very important. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can email me, dave@hotspotbuyers.com.au. They can give me a phone call. I don't mind sharing my number, 0431 682 251. I'm happy to be a supporter, a mentor, a coach, and to help anyone if they want to make a career transition. But
Fantastic.
really, can I just point back toward your way there, Terry? Uh, I can help from my point of view, but a professional career coach is what people need if they're going to make a change. Well, like they need a professional in any significant aspect of their life.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Any website? Got one of those?
Yeah, hotspotbuyers.com.au.
Just wanted to check that bit on the end of the domain. That was all. Listeners, I will actually put all of that information in the credits, so make sure you watch till the end. And then I will also put them in the show notes after I do a little summary of some key takeaways. I do believe, Dave, that we have come to the end, and I'm so very grateful that you have come and shared your story with me today. Obviously, listeners can tell we've known each other for quite a long time, and so I've seen some of these transitions, and it's been lovely to watch. And I'm really, really so happy that you came on today. So thank you. It's been wonderful.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Before we wrap up, here are 3 key takeaways from Dave's story today. First, career paths aren't linear, and that is completely normal. Your skills carry forward even when your job title changes. Second, lead with education before you make a leap. Upskill first, build credibility, then make your move. And third, human skills are your career insurance. Communication and connection matter in every industry. If you enjoyed my conversation with Dave today and would like to see more, be sure to like and subscribe and share this with anyone else who might be interested in this kind of information. If there's a profession that you're interested in, make sure you leave a comment below and I'll see if I can turn that into a future episode for you. Thanks for joining me today on Work Uncovered. And remember, you can't be what you can't see. So until next time, always be curious.